Hi, and welcome to Pack and Den Ceremonies. My name is Matt Scobie. I'm a Cub Master and have been for about 5 years. Done a lot of ceremonies, had a lot of fun with them, and I hope to share some of my experiences, tips, advice, what worked, what didn't work with you today. So, just quickly, some objectives. Why do we do ceremonies? We'll talk about that. When do we do ceremonies? And then, as I mentioned, examples and tips, and then some resources. There's lots and lots and lots of resources that are out there between the internet and the Scout Shop. We are definitely covered. So, why do we do ceremonies? First up, I think ceremonies can set the mood and focus of an event. The example that I'm thinking of is our blue and gold. We have a rich pack tradition of starting our blue and gold with kind of a history of scouting type story, along with a presentation of the ranks, each individual rank. And scouts come forward and they walk up together as a den, and we introduce them as the tigers, as the bears, as the webelos, as the lions, and so forth. And it's exciting. Parents like to see it. Scouts are excited to be a part of that, and it really sets the mood and focus that this is a big event. We're going to have a lot of fun and we're going to do a lot of great things today at our blue and gold. I think they also can be used to set, a clear start, as I just suggested, and a clear ending. So, for example, flag ceremonies, an opening flag ceremony definitely lets people know the meeting is getting started and it's time to get focused. Um, Maybe the number one reason why we do ceremonies is to celebrate milestones like advancement, especially in Cub Scouting. Cub Scouts work all year long towards a rank badge. And so when they reach that milestone, we want to celebrate. And in our pack, we do very, exciting, fun advancement ceremonies per each rank. So we have one for lions, we have one for tigers, and so on. Promotion. And what I mean by that is when you go from being a tiger to being a wolf, or from a wolf to being a bear, and so on. We celebrate that as well because that's a big deal. They've completed this year-long program and they've achieved their rank badge. And now they're on to the next step along the way, the next step in the journey, and that's the next rank. And we present them with their handbooks and their new neckerchief, and it's an exciting, kind of fun, quick ceremony. We do it at our picnic in the pack, so it's outdoors, and it's a lot of fun. And they're excited because they've now got the new handbook and a whole new set of adventures laid before them. Um, Recognition, kind of touched on recognition with advancement, but I think it is its own separate topic. So rank advancement obviously is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate what the scouts have done. Special awards, like if you have a scout earn a supernova, that's a really good time to present them with a ceremony to present them with that award. Religious emblems. When scouts earn religious emblems, you know, in my faith, in the Catholic faith, we have a special ceremony at the cathedral, and it's a big deal. They're presented that award by the Archbishop, and that's exciting. Other special awards, it's always good to have a ceremony and to make that stand out, to make it more meaningful. Uh, Leadership transition, I think, is another opportunity for a ceremony. And what I mean here is like when you get a new Cub Master, I think it's a really good idea to have a ceremony to install that new Cub Master. It's an exciting time. This person is looking forward to taking on this role and this new opportunity to serve. And it's a great opportunity for ceremony. And there's others as well. I mean, not just Cub Master, but committee chair and other key leadership roles. It gives an opportunity to celebrate and recognize this person's desire to serve. Ceremonies, another reason why we do ceremonies is they're really honestly teachable moments. They're an opportunity for us to focus on the aims and ideals of scouting, i.e. the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. A lot of ceremonies have those ideals built into them, and this is an opportunity to circle back around and offer a teachable moment related to those ideas. So that's always a great idea. Um, Citizenship is another method of scouting, and ceremonies offer an opportunity to practice and learn about citizenship. Flag ceremonies, opening and closing flag ceremonies, flag raising, flag lowering, flag retiring. Those are all opportunities for ceremonies, and it's a great opportunity for scouts to learn more about citizenship. Another great reason to do ceremonies is to encourage advancement. It really works. For example, in our pack, our Arrow of Light ceremony and crossover, usually tied together, is a big deal. It's a lot of fun. It's a very somber, meaningful ceremony, and we do our best to make it very exciting. And younger scouts who see that, it's an opportunity for them to see what's to come. And they're going to see this and they're going to say, wow, this is really cool. This is kind of the pinnacle of the Cub Scout experience, earning the Arrow of Light. And they start to look forward to that and they start to want to be a part of that. And so it encourages them to work hard and get to a point where they earn the Arrow of Light. So it definitely encourages advancement and builds excitement for what's to come. And last but not least, I cannot not say this, they're fun. We have fun with ceremonies, scouts have fun with ceremonies, families have fun with ceremonies. It's win-win-win, right? They're always fun. When do we do ceremonies? Kind of touched on this a little bit, but opening and closing. Include the scout oath and the scout law. I kind of mentioned both of those already, but opening and closing ceremonies are key. They let people know that we're getting started. They let people know that we're wrapping up. And then again, it's a teachable moment. It's an opportunity to include the scout oath and the scout law. Again, advancement recognition. We talked quite a bit about that a couple minutes ago, but that's really a very important time to do a ceremony. Crossover transition. As I mentioned, the Arrow of Light / crossover ceremony in my pack is really the ceremony. All of our rank advancement ceremonies are designed to point towards this ceremony. So we speak about the scouting journey, and you start as a lion and you're working through this journey to get to a point where you earn the Arrow of Light. And then what's beyond that? You know, we make a big deal about what's to come when you cross the bridge and you go into Scouts BSA, a whole new set of adventures and excitement lay before you. And we really build that up. But, you know, in addition to that one, like I said, it's the ceremony in my opinion. Each year, you know, we have the transition from tiger to wolf and so forth. So all of those ceremonies are important because they're all key moments in a scout's career where they go from one set of adventures to the next set of adventures. And that's what it's all about, is, you know, building up to greater and greater adventures. Installation, kind of mentioned this a minute ago as well. Just, I think anytime you have someone step into a leadership role or someone stepping out of a leadership role, a ceremony is a great opportunity to thank them and also, you know, just to be excited about someone stepping into the new role, a new opportunity to serve. And so it's a milestone, and it's an opportunity to mark that milestone with a very special moment. And more. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different reasons to do ceremonies, and I encourage you to find those. If you think a ceremony is a good idea, that's a great idea. Just go ahead and do it. Don't second guess it. So here are just a few examples based on my experiences with my pack. Okay, hopefully they're helpful. First, as I've mentioned already a couple times, our Arrow of Light / crossover ceremony is really our key ceremony. All the ones before it lead up to the Arrow of Light and crossover ceremonies. We think of those as kind of well, Arrow of Light is the pinnacle of the Cub Scout experience, and this is also our ceremony that's the pinnacle of all ceremonies. We start our ceremony with a very chilling, you know, reflective, somber story about the arrow of light. And then we lead into a presentation of the arrow of light with a presentation of arrows and a charge. A lot of times you'll see with Eagle Court of Honors, there's a charge to the newly presented Eagle Scout. We do the same thing. We have a charge to our newly presented Arrow of Light Scouts. And then we lead into our crossover ceremony, which in my opinion is quite exciting. It's a ceremony, a traditional ceremony, not our ceremony. We have a ceremony where through the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, we build the bridge. And then scouts cross over from one side of the bridge where the Cub Master, one final shake of the hand, and then the journey across the bridge, and they are welcomed by a troop. It's a very moving, very moving and meaningful ceremony. It's very exciting because, it's a very exciting time for a scout, and it's a very memorable ceremony. Flag ceremonies and flag retirement ceremonies. Flag ceremonies, of course, we start all of our pack meetings and den meetings and all of our meetings with flag ceremonies that include the pledge and include the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. It's a great opportunity to practice citizenship and to learn kind of the mechanics of how we present the flag. The scouts will tend to stumble. They might make mistakes, but that's okay. They're learning. We're ready and willing and happy to help them in any way, especially when it comes to flag folding. When you have closing ceremonies at camp and they lower the flag, flag folding can be very intimidating, especially if you're a young Cub Scout and this is the first time you've done it. So we're always right there ready to help them out. Sometimes they don't need it, but sometimes they do. Flag retirement ceremonies are also a great opportunity to practice citizenship and to really think about what the flag represents, what it means, and how important it is. And it's just a very somber, reflective ceremony, and it should be a very somber and reflective ceremony, focused on service of the flag and all that it represents. And it's a great opportunity for scouts to learn a lot. It's always a very moving and meaningful ceremony. Bobcat ceremonies. I have a lot of fun with Bobcat ceremonies, and I put a lot of importance on Bobcat ceremonies. I think mainly because it's their first ceremony. This is, well, with Lions, they might have earned the Lion badge, which comes before Bobcat. But for a lot of scouts, this is their first true ceremony. And I tend to mix it up. Our pack meetings tend to have themes, and I try to find a Bobcat ceremony that matches the theme. For a couple years now, with our October pack meeting, which is kind of a Halloween themed pack meeting, I've used the glow necklaces. You break them and then they start to glow in kind of a cool ceremony that talks about Scout spirit. If the Scouts have Scout spirit, then their necklace is going to glow. Around Christmas, I like to do one that is talking about, making Christmas cookies and how it's a recipe and you add all these things in there. And really that's what scouting is. We have a recipe where we have scouts and we have the Scout Oath and the Scout Law and all of their adventures and everything that goes into being a scout. You mix it all up, and out on the other end with cookies, you get cookies. With scouting, you get a great person. So I tend to look at Bobcat ceremonies as a great opportunity for a fun, new, and exciting ceremony. And like I said, it's their first ceremony. So it's an opportunity to introduce them to this idea about ceremonies. Rank advancement, as I've mentioned a couple times now, our rank advancement ceremonies, our major rank advancement ceremonies like Lion, Tiger, Wolf, Bear, Webelow, and even Arrow of Light, are all tied together. And we start at Lion, and we're thinking about the scouting journey and all that lays before them and all the adventures and the fun that they're going to have and all that they're going to learn. And it slowly builds towards that Arrow of Light ceremony. But each individual rank advancement ceremony is exciting and memorable within itself. So it's a pack tradition that we have, kind of this building up to that pinnacle of all pinnacles, the Arrow of Light presentation. Rank promotion or transition, oftentimes I call it transition, is another one. And what we typically do is at our picnic in the park, which we hold in May, we have, it's a picnic, so it's kind of a potluck picnic, and we have awards presentations and so forth. And then each rank transitions to the next rank. So lions become tigers and tigers become wolves and so forth. And we have a lot of fun with it. They're really honestly simple ceremonies. It's an opportunity to build excitement for the next year. We give them their handbook, we give them their new neckerchief, and again, build excitement for the next year. One particular example though, our bear to Webelow transition, I look at that, that's kind of an exciting one, right? Because they're going from bear to Webelow. And, so they're still Cub Scouts, but they're going through this transition where now they're going to really start thinking about and be focused on Scouts BSA, the adventures coming up in the next couple of years. And so we make a big deal about that one. And in fact, we will have current Webelow Scouts who participate in that ceremony, mainly it's like a welcoming. It's like, congratulations, Scouts, you're now Webelows. And so they're welcomed into the Webelows by Webelows. And I think that's an exciting touch, and it's always a lot of fun. And Scouts do they love ceremonies, but they also like to be a part of ceremonies. So that's a win-win. We also, our Scouts who are Webelows and then becoming Arrow of Light Webelows or second year Webelows don't necessarily sort of transition, but we do have a special, I guess I would call it just a moment where we recognize them and we let them know that this is the year where they're going to be working on the Arrow of Light, something they've heard about over the last few years, something they're excited about, and they're going to start this journey and be focused on earning the Arrow of Light, and we're there to support them. So I guess it's just kind of an opportunity to stop and remind them about what great things are coming and letting them know that they're not alone. We're all right there with them, and we're excited for them, and we're eager to be there on the day that they achieve and earn their Arrow of Light. Also, when it comes to the transition from Webelows to Arrow of Light, so it's not really a transition in that they don't get a new handbook, they don't get a new neckerchief, but they are now the ranking Scouts in the pack. And I think that's a big deal. And so we have a special presentation, and oftentimes we try to do that at a camp out. We try to have a camp out and present it, at the Saturday night campfire, just kind of take a moment to reflect on that they're now the ranking members. They're the senior Scouts in the pack, and all the other Scouts are going to be looking up to them. And we make it a big deal, and we have a special patch, and we have a lot of fun. And I think that's another useful ceremony for marking that particular transition. New leaders, as I've mentioned a couple times, when we have a new committee chair or a new Cub master, these kind of key roles in the pack leadership, we do a transition ceremony, kind of a passing of the torch, or a passing of the guard, or something like I will admit it's a very quick and simple ceremony, but it's nice to be able to mark that transition and celebrate that transition and celebrate new leadership. So opening and closings are also great opportunities for teachable moments, as we've discussed a couple times. We tend to do the traditional opening and closing flag ceremonies, very traditional, and we kind of stick to the book with those. But we will oftentimes try to do opening or other ceremonies related to that focus on the Scout Law or the Scout Oath or some focus of scouting. There's a lot of resources available for those. Google the Dan and Pack Ceremony Manual, the pack meeting plans that you can get from scouting.org and so forth. There's all kinds of great resources for other types of ceremonies. And like I said, they're great opportunities to reinforce the Scout Oath, the Scout Law, and have all kinds of different teachable moments. Next up, I want to talk about a few tips that I've noted over the last few years of doing ceremonies, and I hope they help. That's the whole point. I hope they do help. So first up, know your audience. And I think as, Cub masters, as leaders, pack leaders, I think we're all kind of used to this idea, but young scouts do have a short attention span. It's hard for them to sit still for very long. So keeping things like changing things up, keeping things going, interjecting songs and things like that can help. It can help with short bits versus a longer bit. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Um, I've noted with some of the examples we discussed, just the idea of using a theme throughout. With our blue and gold, we tend to have a theme that goes from the beginning ceremony of lions all the way through to arrow of light. Um, you know, Obviously in scouting, we have themes based on the ideals and the aims and methods, things that we can build into our ceremonies. And those are great ideas. And those are always a great part of the ceremony. And that's, I think, what I'm suggesting here is just having a theme or a message, or really having a purpose, and having that theme, message, or purpose be based in scouting. This one is really, honestly, I'll be honest, it's more of a note from me. If I don't have a script or an outline or something to go by, I unfortunately tend to forget parts. So I have, over the years, learned that I absolutely have to use a script. So I make sure that I have one, and I also provide it for other people that are going to be involved. Um, you may be great at memorizing bits of text and keeping things straight, but it helps me. And be entertaining. And what I mean by that is stories or magic, anything like that, everybody loves it. I've learned over the last few years that when you are doing a ceremony that seems very much like a story, you get scouts and parents and everybody paying attention. I don't know why. It really works. I guess I like stories too, so maybe that's why it works. But when you tell a story, you don't have to stop and raise the sign and try to get people to listen. It just kind of works. So stories, and then magic. I'm a big fan of magic. I love magic, and so I think that's a lot of fun too. When a lot of ceremonies sort of have a punchline, for lack of a better phrase, but a punchline that's based on magic. So like kind of a magic trick. And when that happens, that's a lot of fun, and scouts love it. Anyone that's gone to MYLT knows why I wrote it that way. But I'm just sitting here recording this at home, so I think it's okay if I say enthusiasm, but be enthusiastic, okay? Have fun. Ceremonies are supposed to be fun for you and for the scouts and the families, for everybody involved. Have fun. Be enthusiastic. If possible, include takeaways. This is just a suggestion. These are just tips based on my experience. But with our rank advancement ceremonies, we do have takeaways. For example, the Lions, we have a ceremony that's focused on, it's kind of based on the Lion King, and it's focused on, everything that lays before the scouts, the scouting journey ahead of them. And as part of that, we have paper crowns. Typically, I get them at the card shop around Mardi Gras time. And so they're kind of Mardi Gras, but they're paper crowns. Scouts love them. They have a lot of fun. With our wolves, we have a ceremony where we give them I don't know what you call them, but the kind of the glow in the dark plastic teeth that they can put in their mouth. And in fact, that's actually part of the ceremony, and so on. So we try to include little takeaways that they get with the ceremony, because I think it helps with the memories, and it helps reinforce what the ceremony was about and the fact that it was a big deal. Involve scouts, and as I mentioned, rotate the responsibility. But I touched on it a couple of times, I think, with previous or with examples of other ceremonies. But if you can involve scouts, that's a win-win. That's great. They love doing it, and everybody loves having them as part of it. So that's win-win. And if you can involve their families, absolutely do it. And then, like I said, give everybody a chance to participate. With our pack meetings, we start out the beginning of the year where the Arrow of Light Scouts are the ones who do the opening flag ceremony. And then the next one, it's the Webelos. And then the next one, it's the Bears. So we rotate the responsibility kind of oldest down to youngest so that the younger ones have a chance to see it and get examples or have it modeled before it's their turn to do the flag ceremony. That seems to work out pretty well, you know. But other ceremonies as well. If you can involve scouts, you know, if you have a ceremony based on the scout law and, you know, you have a scout say, you know, scout is trustworthy, and then so on. Just, it's a great opportunity for them to be a part of it and definitely makes it more memorable. And remember the 4 S's of campfire planning: songs, stunts, stories, and showmanship. We haven't touched on songs very much, but songs, I don't know if they're necessarily always part of a ceremony, but I guess they could be. But songs are always fun, and it's a great way to sort of set the tone, set the mood, and get people engaged. You know, if you have a song before the ceremony, or honestly, if you have a song that's part of a ceremony, that's great. Stunts, you know, be careful, of course, but stunts are great, you know, especially I mentioned magic tricks and things like that. Just showy kind of things that can happen that get somebody's attention are a great idea. And then we've talked about stories, and then showmanship, I think, goes throughout the whole experience, you know, being enthusiastic, being the one who's up there as the MC and having fun with it and leading everybody and being very deliberate about the excitement and everything that's going on. Here's one. This is a tip, again, like scripts, this is directed mostly at me. Check for any regulations. For example, I early on in my Cub Master career did a couple ceremonies that involved candles, only to find out later that I shouldn't have been doing that. Our chartered org doesn't want us to have open flame inside the building, so I had to obviously change what I did. Costumes and props are always a big hit, no surprise. You know, you tend to collect these over the years. I have a few now, and every once in a while when we're getting ready to do something, I'll be like, oh, I should get out that, or oh, you know, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's okay too. I mean, you know, it is fun. It's just part of that whole making it memorable, making it a fun time that everybody's going to want to be a part of. And I think this has probably been clear in a lot of what we've talked about so far, but building pack traditions. I'm a big fan of building pack traditions. I see a lot of traditions in our rank advancement ceremonies and our, you know, crossover ceremonies. And I think that's important because traditions, it gives you a chance to be a part of something that is bigger than you. And it gives you a chance to look forward to the future and to look forward to what's to come, because you know a little bit about what's to come because of the pack traditions. And so again, that's all these tips are tips from my experiences. I imagine a lot of you have other tips or have received other advice and so forth, and that's great. This is just thoughts and tips and advice that I've noted over the years, and I'm just sharing it. Hopefully it's helpful. Other examples and tips. I actually put this out to Facebook and had a few friends that posted some suggestions, and I think they tie into some of what we talked about, but there's some suggestions that are also, I think, new. Raymond Culp with Pack 175 at St. Edwards noted that with their Pinewood Derby, they set up a smoke machine and lights, and the scouts come out running through the smoke and the lights, and it's very exciting. And like I said, ceremonies are an opportunity to, you know, set the focus and really kind of build the mood for an event. And that's a great example. Tips and advice, he recommends, you know, good record keeping. Absolutely. You know, we have very detailed records of our ceremonies. I keep a folder, a Google Drive folder full of all the different ceremonies that we do. And so I know exactly where they are. Other leaders, you know, past leaders. I've talked to other people who were Cub Masters of my pack before me. I talked to other people who are Cub Masters of other packs. These are examples. I'm always curious to hear what other people do, and that's a great tip as far as getting more information, finding out what you can do to make ceremonies better, and to share what you do. Google, I absolutely cannot offer a better resource for ceremonies. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots and lots of ceremonies out there, and Google is probably the way to find them. This is a great suggestion. Ask kids, ask the scouts what they want. They might not have any ideas, as Raymond mentions, but they might. And if they do, it's probably going to be a great idea. Plan ahead. I absolutely, absolutely. Plan ahead, get help, expect people to help you. And as he mentions, don't stress. Not everything's going to go as planned. Absolutely the truth. Absolutely the truth. But it's going to be great. The scouts are going to leave smiling, and you're going to have a lot of fun doing what you do. Chris Hulsman with PAC 346, he's also a part of my PAC. He's our new committee chair. He's commenting about the Order of the Arrow selection ceremonies. This is more in the Scouts BSA realm, but when they go to summer camp in the summer, one of the nights of summer camp, they will have an Order of the Arrow call-out ceremony. And these are very exciting, somber ceremonies where everybody lines up in a circle, and different camps do it different ways, but everybody lines up in a circle, and then those that have been elected to the Order of the Arrow are identified and called out. And so it's an exciting time. It's a very reflective, kind of somber, meaningful time, because it's a big group gathered around a campfire, and it's an Order of the Arrow ceremony. But that one's really exciting. And I think in terms of, it's like I said, it's more towards Scouts BSA, but in terms of PAC and Cub Scouts, I think dramatic is the theme here. The Order of the Arrow ceremony is quite dramatic, and it makes it much more meaningful. And that's a good thing. So if you have a ceremony and it seems dramatic, that's okay. That's great. I mean, or if you can add drama or something like this, to a ceremony, that's great. Paul Heitkemper with PAC 56 commented on flag ceremony that his PAC had at a campout. One of the neat things here is each Cub got a chance to be involved because they each got to place a piece of the flag on the fire. So they were each involved with the retiring of the flag. Andy comments that one of the dads even played taps on the harmonica. And I can see where that would actually be very moving. I thought that was a great idea, and I was really happy that he shared that. So something else to think about. At this time, I'd like to welcome a couple of special guests. Jason and Mark are two scouters that I have known for a long time and have gone to numerous times for advice on ceremonies and anything related to that. I've been a part of ceremonies that they've put on. I have a lot of great respect for them, and they have a lot of great advice. And so I want to give them a chance to share with you.
Okay. The biggest thing is if I could get the more audience participation, the better. Set that expectation early with the adults in the PAC. I always get them on that first PAC meeting and say, look, if you're not going to do these things, your scout's going to look back at you and say, well, my dad's not doing that, so this is going to be funky. It's not going to be cool. That type of thing. One of the ceremonies that I did with the advancement was I had the Indian drums playing in the background, and I read out of the resource manual talking about the chief and how he talked to the scouts, and the whole meaning of that ceremony in the advancement, where the chief was talking with all the braves about their progress through the ranks. So that was one. One of the other ceremonies was I was the Grand Wizard, and I came in with the wizard hat, and I had dry ice in a cauldron, and they threw their tiger neckerchief in there or something, or it doesn't have to be for the tigers, it could be for any of them. They threw all the stuff that all the the adventure stuff, they threw it in there, and then I swooshed it around with the dry ice and made awesome, and then I reached in there and pulled out their new neckerchief. And of course, the song's like crazy. always doing the songs. The banana song is get them up off their feet. I like that one. Um, always did the bear hunt, not the one that one day I saw a bear. He looked at me. Okay, it wasn't that one. This was the one where, hey,
Swish, 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 like,
yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
that's a
So,
great one. Yeah, I'm going on a bear hunt,
yep.
trying to find a big one.
Oh, that would take that out of the resource book. I love to do the ones where I would have you when you say a word, they do an action in the
Oh,
story, you know. And I would tell the parents, I said, look, if you're not going to get involved in doing this, then your scouts aren't going to get involved, you know. So if they see that your willingness to put on a crazy hat, or your willingness to say, okay, so every time I say the wind, I want all the adults to go shh,
right. Yeah.
like that. I love the chicka boom, you know.
Right.
That's I love to sing that one. Definitely, I've been meaning to do it again with our scouts. Uh, I, the '60s party. I love that one.
I did
So
too. I did too.
is I enjoy the heck out of that one. So
And it fits what you're saying because it's all about the audience participation, you know.
yeah, yeah. For the Christmas one, we did the hot seat. It was a hot seat game, and you put like a $5 prize or something in there, something cheap. Most of it, I would always buy some like Pokemon cards, packs of Pokemon cards, or something like that, and put them in the thing, or Magic, the Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something, or
Yeah.
something like that, and you play the hot like a musical chair type thing, and it was pretty neat. Gets a little testy, but you work on you get to see who's working on their scout skills as
Oh,
you
yeah.
know the oath and the law.
Right. Right. Opportunity to remind them. But
Right, exactly. Yeah.
all right. Well, Mark, thanks for joining me. I just want to get your thoughts on memorable ceremonies and any tips or advice you might have.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Matt. I think opening and closing ceremonies are really important. They're really good to kick off the beginning of a meeting. And I would usually, when I was a Cub Master, I would pick a different scout every week to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a different scout to lead the oath, and a different one to lead the law. And we would have the oath and the law, the printouts, up so everybody could see them, but it gave the scouts an opportunity to to be a leader even at a very young age, and the parents let me know that they really like that. And then we would also do a closing ceremony because all our dens met on one night, and we would do our opening ceremony, everybody goes to their meetings, come back, and we would do a closing just as a kind of a summary of the meeting, and we would have everybody stand in a circle, and they would put their left arm over their right and join hands, because the left arm is the one closest to the heart, and that's why the scout handshake is with the left hand. And so we talk a little bit about the meeting. I'd ask the scouts what they enjoyed about it. And this is just a few minutes. This is not a long closing ceremony, because with Cub Scouts, you're not going to keep their attention unless you've got them engaged. And then we would end it with, I would say, okay, and let's repeat the Cub Scout motto. And then we would break with everybody saying, do your best. And so that helped them learn the motto as well. Another ceremony I did as Cub Master was because of a recruiting event we had. A couple of boys got into a scuffle, and I wasn't sure who the offending boy was, and I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. I told the whole pack. I realized that one of our recruits was unhappy with that, and didn't want to come back because of that bad experience. And he didn't know who the boy was. And, again, I didn't care who it was. I just said, well, maybe we need to talk about the Scout law. And so there's a ceremony in the Cub Scout ceremonies book um, where you go through each point of the Scout law and give a description of it. What does trustworthy mean? What does loyal mean? And so what I did was I involved the parents, and I think it's a good idea to involve the families in ceremonies as much as possible. Um, and so I got up and we had a wooden arrow of light, and I'll show you a picture of it just on my iPhone here. But a wooden arrow of light, and there were initially 7 uh, candle holes, holes for candles in it, and I drilled 5 more to cover all the points of the Scout law. And so at the beginning of the ceremony, I lit all the candles, and then I said, "A Scout is trustworthy." And one of the parents stood up, and I had given them the little script to read for the explanation of what is trustworthy. And then I had a little cup of water behind the arrow of light, and I would dip my fingers in there where the audience couldn't see it. And then I would snuff out the candle with my fingers. And so I said, "A Scout is trustworthy." And then the parent would read that. Then I'd dip it and I'd say, "Be ever trustworthy." And we did that all the way through the Scout law, "Be ever loyal." And it went really well. All the Scouts were really quiet, really focused on what I was doing. In fact, one of the parents told me it was one of the best ceremony, or it was the best ceremony she'd ever seen. And she was a school principal, so she's seen a lot of ceremonies. And another parent told me that said their son was just really watching my hand. How was I snuffing out those candles without it hurting? And of course, I had some cool water back there.
And then you also mentioned, do not try this at home.
Yes, definitely. But so at the end of the ceremony, all the candles were out. We'd gone through the whole law, and I think it left a good impression with the Scouts. One other ceremony that we did that is also in the ceremony book that we did at my first Blue and Gold when I was a den leader, but I led this ceremony as well, and it's called the story of the Blue and Gold. And you have some dry ice in a bucket, and you can't go wrong with dry ice. Pouring water over dry ice makes a nice cloud, and it's really impressive. And so what you do is you have 2 Cub Scouts, and they run off and they come back with with a jar full of blue water from food coloring and some gold water, and you have them pour it over the dry ice, and it makes this big foam. And then while they're doing this, you're telling the story of the Blue and Gold. And everybody loved that. They hadn't seen that before, and it was a big hit. So doing ceremonies like that, where you can 1, involve the family and the Scouts,
Mm-hmm.
and 2, make it as impressive as you can with, you don't have to use dry ice, you don't have to use candles, although candles are an easy thing to do and are used in a lot of ceremonies for scouting. And those turned out really well. And I just really want to pitch getting the ceremony book for Cub Scouts, because like all the den leader books and all those books, it's $10, and it is a really useful tool. Just a couple of other points that I'd like to share about ceremonies is, as with anything, planning is the key. Knowing who will do what and when they'll do it is just extremely important to show that you're prepared for the ceremony. And and hopefully you'll have time to practice, do a run through. But if you don't, you at least visualize it in your mind, what part you're going to do, who's going to do what, so that you know what to expect and how long it's going to take. And as I said, involve the families as much as possible, but also see if you can get somebody to take pictures, because they were great marketing tools for our pack, because parents love seeing their Scouts in uniform doing ceremonies or getting awards. Anytime you can do that, and ceremonies are especially good time for taking pictures. And that's all I had.
Oh, that's awesome,
Those are
Mark.
my
Thank
tips
you.
for good ceremonies.
That's awesome. And I just want to give you an opportunity to plug your class, right? Which one is yours?
My class for University of Scouting was Beyond the Basics, talking about the PAC committee. And I am very much an authority on the PAC committee because I held just about every position in the first PAC we were in. So that's a program that is part of University of Scouting. You can watch, and feel free to send me an email if you have any questions about that or about ceremonies. Mr. Scobie obviously knows a lot about ceremonies, but just for my 2 cents, if you have any questions, anything I can help with, is markeblin@gmail.com.
All right, Mark, thanks. I look
Right,
forward to watching. Following along the lines of the tips that we talked about a little bit ago, just some brief notes on flag ceremonies. And this is not going to be details on everything you need to know about flag ceremonies. Just wanting to point out some tips or advice or things that I've noticed over the last few years, things to watch out for and things to be prepared to help with mainly. One, let the scouts run the flag ceremonies and rotate the responsibility. They really want to be a part of these. It's very easy to find volunteers because in fact, really the harder part is to limit the number of volunteers because you will have no trouble finding volunteers, be it at a PAC meeting, a den meeting, at a camp out. It's no trouble to find volunteers. So take advantage of that. They will stumble, fumble, struggle, whatever you want to call it. But it is a learning opportunity and they are learning a lot. It's a great experience for them and don't worry about it. It's not going to be perfect and that's okay. They're getting a lot out of it. Do be prepared to help them and to guide them and direct them. But don't worry if it's not perfect because it's not going to be perfect. Here's some resources I think that are useful. The Scouting Magazine article is back from 2015, but it's a really good article. I encourage you to look that up and take a look. Halfstaff.org, I find that to be useful if you're driving down the Waterson or anywhere and you notice flags are at half staff. Sometimes we don't know why. You can look there and it'll tell you. That's a great resource for basically knowing when the flag should be at half staff. The PAC and Den Ceremonies Manual is a great resource. It's come up a few times already, but it is an absolutely great resource for flag ceremonies. It'll have the ceremonies for the outdoors, raising, lowering. It'll have the ceremonies for the indoors. It'll have all the different possibilities covered for you. And it'll include the script. And so that's an absolute great resource. The book, Your Flag, which here in a minute, I'll show you some resources and I'll show you the image of that. You can get it at the Scout Shop or scoutstuff.org. Is a great resource for the history that goes along with the flag. So all we'd ever want to know about the history of the flag, but also it does include information about ceremonies and etiquette and everything that's important. And then, as always, Google, definitely a great resource just in general. Again, I've mentioned this before, but again, use a script. Absolutely have a script available, especially for scouts. Younger scouts want to be a part of it, and a lot of times younger scouts want to be the one who calls the ceremony, but they don't know all the commands, and you can stand there and tell them what the commands are, but it's probably more effective if you let them read it and take it at their own pace and do it the way they want to do it. So I encourage, what I do is actually have like a couple laminated cards that I have with my Cub Master tote. And then whenever we have a PAC meeting or any situation where we're going to have a flag ceremony, I can hand that to the scout or the den leader and they can use that. And sometimes the den leader will have it, but anyway, you definitely want to use a script. And when it comes to folding the flag, like if you're at a camp and you do a flag lowering and you'll need to fold the flag, be prepared to help. That is not easy, especially when you're a young scout and you haven't, but maybe done it once or twice at a den meeting, and everybody's looking at you and you're nervous. Well, they're probably going to need help. So be prepared to help them, kind of give them a little bit of direction, but let them do it. let's see. Uh, Something we've done or attempted to do at PAC meetings and so forth is to include parents who have either served or do serve in the military and or are first responders. We've had a couple of firefighters recently that are parents in our PAC. We've had police officers before that are parents in our PAC. And I think it's a great idea to include them. And we've done that, especially for special flag ceremonies. We've done that, and it adds to the meaning. It adds to the meaning. Uh, these next two are just tips that I've picked up along the way, just noticing where stumbles tend to happen. Um, Sometimes scouts and parents, and really anybody, is not exactly sure when you salute the flag or put your hand over your heart if you're not in uniform. You want to salute the flag when it is actively being raised or lowered. So if you're at camp and they're raising or lowering the flag. So when it's actively moving up or down the flagpole, you want to salute. During the Pledge of Allegiance, you want to salute. During the national anthem, you want to salute. And if we're in a situation where there's a parade and when the flag lines up or the flag passes us, the moment that the flag passes us, we salute. So those are the times. And a lot of times what ends up happening at PAC meetings and things like that, people salute more, and that's okay. But it's definitely good to know exactly when you want to salute the flag. Oh, another one is when you do, especially an indoor flag ceremony, you do a procession. The American flag should always be on the right. It moves on the right, and then as you get prepared to post the colors, you will cross, and the American flag should cross first, and then you prepare to post the colors, and then you post, and the American flag should be on the speaker's right. But the American flag should always be on the right, and that crossing will sometimes cause confusion. So that's just something to be aware of and be ready to jump in and help. Flag retirement ceremonies, as we've mentioned a couple different times, and in tips and comments, they're moving and inspirational. It's an opportunity to stop and think about what the American flag represents and all the service that goes along with the American flag and all that is the number of people who have sacrificed their lives and everything that goes into our freedom and everything that our country is all about. It's a lot, it's heavy, it is, but they're very important ceremonies, and these are an opportunity to teach a lot about citizenship. One comment though that I'll add here is be careful when you're retiring flags. Most of the modern flags are made out of sort of more durable material. Like I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's more of a synthetic based material, so it lasts longer. But what that means is they burn quickly and they burn hot. Seems like they burn hotter than you would imagine. And they also emit gases, so that's something to be concerned about. So bottom line, flag retirement ceremonies absolutely have to be carefully supervised by adults, very carefully supervised by adults, especially when it's young scouts. So just something to be aware of. Resources, want to share with you, I mean, we've kind of touched on a few of these as we've gone through, but just kind of want to quickly go through what resources are available. And there's lots. Number one, Google. I think most people go straight to Google. Not a bad idea. I will comment, if you go to Google and you search and you find ceremonies, absolutely read and proofread them. Most of them out there probably have not been updated since the time that girls were now allowed into PACs and into the Scouts PSA. So they might be a little bit outdated as far as gender pronouns and things like that. So you want to go through, edit, and make sure that it does apply. And probably want to just kind of go through and edit it in general and just make sure that it suits your purposes. This first one, the ceremonies for dens and PACs, I would label an absolute must-have. And Mark commented on that, and I think anybody else you talk to would probably comment. It probably is about $10 at the Scout Shop or on scoutstuff.org, but it's an absolute must-have. It's going to have ceremonies that cover everything you possibly want to cover. They're going to be great suggestions, and they're tried and true ceremonies, and it's worth $10. That's all, $10. It's worth that. The next couple of books are just skit books. And you might say, well, why would you do skits during ceremony? Well, sometimes you want to throw skits in between ceremonies to kind of break it up and, be a little bit more entertaining and change up the flow of how things are going, just to keep people engaged. And so skit books, I'm a big fan of the skits and a big fan of the skit books. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Here's one, run-ons and even more skits. Run-ons are great, like quick segues between ceremonies or something like that. A quick run-on can give people a quick laugh and then on to the next ceremony. The Superior Campfires book is definitely a good one, and it does kind of apply here because it gives you more than just skits and songs and things like that. It's more about like showmanship and things like that kind of go into ceremonies. So it's about campfires, but a lot of these ideas will apply to ceremonies. The songbook, the Cub Scout songbook, definitely a good book or a good resource, because just like skits, songs are a great way to get people engaged and get people active and get people involved, so that the ceremonies become more meaningful because they're a part of it. So the songs can happen before the ceremony or after the ceremony, but it just gives people a chance to be involved and have some fun. This group meeting sparklers, similar to the campfires book that we just talked about, that's a good book. It's got little ideas, as it says there, ideas to brighten any meeting, but like run-ons and things like that, just things that you can use to kind of help, like the round of applause and things like that, just little funny things that people like to do, you'll find in that book. This Your Flag, we mentioned that a minute ago. That's a great resource. As I said, it's got a lot of history, but it's also got a lot of practical knowledge that's going to help. And then here's some websites. These are all just kind of general standard websites that I like to go to for lots of different reasons, but they're also great for ceremonies. And so that's a good resource to note. And imagine a lot of you have probably already spent some time on each and every one of those. All right, well, I think that brings us to the end. I hope this has been helpful. Set out to kind of give you some thoughts and tips and advice, things that I've noted over the last few years of doing ceremonies as a Cub Master of my pack. I hope they're helpful. If you have questions, please feel free to email or call. If I've talked about a ceremony and you'd like to know more about it, feel free to email. I'm happy to send along a script sample or a script for whichever ceremony that might be. Happy to share the knowledge. Absolutely. And if you have suggestions, I would love to hear your suggestions, because I imagine you probably gather that I think ceremonies are very important, and I do. And if you have suggestions, things that you want to offer and I can add to future presentations, please share. I would love to know it. But I guess that brings us to our end, and I thank you for your time, and I hope you got something out of it.